Hey, what do you think about the opening to Lightyear?
Oh, I did not like it whatsoever.
Yeah, I think the same thing. It was total garbage. Pixar's Lightyear came out in 2022. This means it followed movies like Soul, Luca, or Turning Red that released Disney Plus and one-upped them by going straight into theaters. That's a pretty big deal for moviegoers. Plus, it's an addition to the Toy Story story. So this movie did have a few stakes when going into theaters. It had something to do with Toy Story, and it was the first release of Pixar since, well, you know, everyone died. In my personal experience, I didn't really care that it was coming out at the time. In 2022, I was kind of catching up on all the Pixar stuff because I was just getting into it. I was still trying to get caught up on Toy Story 1, 2, 3, 4, and Toy Story Hawaiian Vacation. Watching Lightyear after watching the rest of the Pixar movies really was just kind of rough. It felt more like Marvel and Star Wars had a baby, but they were siblings and had an inbred child. Most people seem to agree with me. Shafrula says it's just some action mush. Rebel Taxi says it's absolute garbage. And then 24 Frames of Nick says it's meh. But I, Jack Carlin, I say the same thing. It's not that good. But one part does stick out. The opening. Let's make sure you understand the opening real quick. You got Buzz and Alicia, the two space rangers. They try to land on a planet to see if it's inhabitable, and then they find out that it's trying to kill them. While trying to escape from the planet, Buzz makes a mistake and they end up getting marooned. And then the rest of the movie follows Buzz trying to fix that mistake, trying to get the people off of the planet. Straight from this intro, we understand the themes of the movie. Guilt and obsession. The guilt comes from making the mistake and getting marooned. His obsession comes from trying to fix the mistake rather than just accepting it. Directly after the intro, we're brought to a montage of Buzz trying to fix his mistake. To fix his mistake, he needs to repair the ship, and to repair the ship, he needs a fuel thingy. But to make sure the fuel thingy works, he needs to go into a smaller ship, run that around in space, and then see if it works. However, every single time he goes up to test the fuel, he fast forwards in time, causing people around him to age faster than he does. A normal person would look at this and be like, oh, I don't want to lose out on 4 years of my life each time I test a fuel. They'd simply look for a better way. However, due to Buzz's obsession, he keeps going with it, losing more and more time with those around him. And that results in the best part of this movie. This opening section is so good. And albeit it's only the opening that's good about this movie, but I'm not going to complain about the whole movie right now. I'm here to praise it for the opening. So we'll complain about it some other time. For this opening, there's basically 3 things that make it good. The first thing is the pacing. After Buzz fails the mission for the first time, we understand the consequences. 4 years of time pass without him. So now that we understand the consequences, the montage begins. And holy cow, the consequences pile up fast. This montage is showing that over and over and over again, Buzz is willing to take these consequences to finish his mission. But then all of a sudden, the consequences peak. Once he comes back for the last time, everybody that he knew is dead. This entire section of the movie follows a really cool graph. Goodness, this is sad. Goodness, this is so hype. And oh my goodness, all of his friends are dead. Number 2 is the soundtrack. In the aforementioned scenes, songs go along with each of them. When the consequences are established, we get a sad song. During the actual montage of it, where he's going through the mission, we get a super hype song. It's like, I should really stop singing the songs. But when the montage ends, the sad song that played before plays again. Firstly, the tone of all of these songs matches the graph that I mentioned earlier. Secondly, these sad songs are amazing. The time in which they're played is what makes them amazing. The first time the sad song is heard, it's when the consequences are set, and the second time they're heard, it's when they peak. Both times, the consequences are there, but it's just at different levels of being extreme. That's why when the sad song plays a second time, it's slower and sadder because something worse has happened. But it's the same scenario. That's confusing. Holy cow. Shout out to Michael Giacchino. You're a real one, man. I love you. I love you. Number 3 is the reasoning for this montage to happen in the first place. This entire thing is caused by guilt and obsession, the themes of this movie. We understand that this entire scenario that Buzz has got himself into is self-inflicted. Watching someone make their own life harder when it's unnecessary is completely hard to watch. And that's what makes this good writing for an opening. Even though this opening is so good, it did not stop reviewers from saying really bad things about it. So let's go to argument number 1. Rebel Taxi's argument is simple. To summarize what he said in his video, the setup sucks because Buzz has no reason to get the people off of the planet that they got marooned on. They set up camp just fine, and they don't seem like they're in any danger. That's the point. This movie is about obsession and guilt. Have I said it enough? So if the guilt is caused by making a mistake and the obsession is correcting that mistake, then it doesn't matter if everyone's safe. All that matters to Buzz is that he made a mistake. That guilt remains due to his obsession, thus creating his determination to fix his mistake, even though no one wants him to fix his mistake. So the setup is great because it shows us this obsession and guilt. That's what makes this opening so exciting yet so sad. Everything that Buzz does is pointless. No one needs help. The deaths of his friends could have been avoided, but they weren't due to his obsession. You get all of that from the setup. All of that. And you have the guts to tell me that it's a bad opening? You have the guts? Also, this is kind of a side note, but Rebel Taxi titled his video, How Lightyear Fails in the First 20 Minutes. This is a terrible title for his video. 1, his first point is straight up wrong. The setup is good. 2, he has no other point. Rebel Taxi's video about the first 20 minutes of Lightyear has one thing to say about the first 20 minutes of Lightyear, and it's wrong. The rest of the video complains about things that happen later on in the movie, which I can totally agree is just complete garbage. So Rebel Taxi, if you're watching, fix your title. Good video, but holy cow, change the title. Also, second side note, if you want to watch the videos that I reference in this one, they're in the description. Argument number 2 is from Shafrulis Productions, but there's a slight problem. There's no argument here. Shafrulis tries to argue the same thing as Rebel Taxi. He says that the mission is pointless. So say it with me. That's the point. It's supposed to be pointless to show that all of his efforts, even though that he thought it was the right thing to do, was the wrong thing to do. It's supposed to show that even though he wanted to fix his mistake, he was the problem, and there was nothing that he could do to fix his mistake, so he needed to move on. You know, all that existential stuff, blah, blah, blah. That made no sense whatsoever, but the point is that it's pointless, so work with me here. One day the words I say will make sense. The only thing I can say confidently about Lightyear is that the opening is amazing. The opening to any movie doesn't need to be emotional, it doesn't need to be action-based, yet Lightyear does both. And since it does both, it has a really cool result, a dilemma. And even better, the dilemma is a simple one. Is Buzz in the right? On one hand, he's trying to finish what he started, the mission. But on the other hand, no one cares if he finishes or not. Him completing the mission means nothing. The only one affected is him. This is such a unique opening, but because the rest of the movie kind of stinks, it's really just overlooked. If there's one takeaway from Lightyear, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. If you invest everything into the opening and don't have a good story to follow it, then the movie's gonna be bad. If you put too much into the ending and don't have a good start, then no one's gonna make it to the end. Alright, I don't really know how to end this video, so I'm kind of just gonna start deconstructing my studio.